Happy New Year and welcome to Moderate Fantasy Violence, a podcast about 2025 and everything that happened in it. God help us. I'm Nick.
And I'm Alistair.
And this year, as we do every year at around this time, we're going to talk about how it's been in both TV and film. We'll also be giving our respective top fives of releases from this year in, again, those two mediums, and then we'll be trying to come to some sort of unified MFV consensus. It sounds like it might be a big fight. It normally isn't. But before we do any of that, Alistair, have you consumed anything else in the last couple of weeks that you want to talk about?
Well, yes, I've come with a recommendation in mind. This one is maybe, I don't know, a little bit embarrassing. It's embarrassing because it's probably a film that everyone who listens to this podcast assumes I've already seen, but I actually only watched this for the first time over Christmas. And I'm here to talk about Spirited Away, from Studio Ghibli, a film by Miyazaki, Japanese director, famous animated film, which, I hadn't seen until a few days ago, which is why it's a bit embarrassing. I'm sure everyone assumes I've seen it. One of the projects I've taken on over Christmas, when we've got some downtime, is I'm watching my way through, or as many as I can, of the Studio Ghibli films that I've not seen so far, because they're all on Netflix and I'm considering maybe cancelling my Netflix subscription. So I thought I'd crack on with these. So including some of the most famous ones that I've not seen. So the other day I watched Spirited Away for the first time. I'd seen clips before and stuff, as everyone has, but I hadn't actually sat down and watched the whole film from start to finish. And what to say? It's a classic for a reason. It's a great film. It's really moving. It's emotional. It's funny. It's beautifully animated. Definitely one I can recommend.
I, unusually, considering that I usually have reliably, embarrassingly not seen many of classic films, I might have seen this one. Is this the one with no face?
Yes.
I have seen this actually, and my partner, due to her intense shame at how little of her favourite films I've seen, did actually get me to watch this at one point. No, this was really good.
Yeah, it's stunningly beautiful, I must say. And the way it's animated, whole world that this little girl falls into with these sort of spirits and bizarre creatures and things like that is just so lovingly brought to life, which each character has kind of got a distinct personality and makeup and things like that. It is, just a beautiful piece of filmmaking.
Yeah, my memory of the exact plots and details has probably started to ebb a bit now, but I do remember appreciating the sort of beautiful dream logic creature design of it, the sort of uniquely weird yet strangely consistent in itself universe they sort of set up within this film, and how it just sort of advances and becomes more and more weird. And I do remember enjoying the trippiness of it, I guess, quite a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of different bizarre characters, like the little heads that roll around and make strange noises, or bird and duck based sort of spirits and things like that, and some of the other weirder ones like No Face that you mentioned, and there's the river spirit and things like that. I think some of it is informed by Japanese folklore, probably also like Shintoism, which is kind of, I think, a celebration of the spirit of a place with things like river spirits. So I guess, I don't know if you were Japanese, you might be more familiar with some of the archetypes they're dealing with, but I don't want to say that for certain, because there's a possibility they just kind of create a lot of cool stuff just because, why not?
Yeah, I think the sort of vibe of Spirited Away, I don't know where this came in the Studio Ghibli timeline. It feels like it's one of the earlier ones, if not an early one. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this sort of vibe of beautifully aesthetically consistent dream logic weirdness is something they've become quite known for.
Yeah, it's definitely continuing theme, and something that sets the tone for the films that come after it. So right back at the beginning of this year, people who've been listening to the podcast for a while will remember that I discussed The Boy and the Heron, the most recent one, and that's got a similar sort of dream logic kind of vibe. This time it's a boy who goes through a tunnel, ends up in a strange world with sort of fantastical creatures and weird dream logic. I think in terms of the overall timeline, this was, I think, kind of around the middle, in that It was early aughts. I think it was the one that really broke Studio Ghibli as a big mainstream thing. It won Best Animated Feature that year, and really got a lot of mainstream attention, with a lot of people going to see this film that again, people who don't normally go to see films that aren't in English or animated films, or even with people who don't go to cinema a lot going out to see this. But obviously Studio Ghibli had a long canon of films before that, going back to the 80s. There's a few others, early ones like My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, things like that. I think Grave of the Fireflies is earlier. But then obviously they've got onto a lot of different films. Since then, I remember at uni watching Howl's Moving Castle, which is based on a Welsh novel. So they're not all Japanese stories. The novel's actually Welsh for that.
I think I've read the novel but not seen the film, actually.
Yeah, it's a very good novel. Well, my partner's read the novel. She really liked it. This is, one of the things I've been trying to pick up. I mean, they also did, at some point, I think it might have been in the late 90s, an adaptation of Wizard of Earthsea based on the Ursula K. Le Guin novels. So yeah, they've got a sort of long history, and this one kind of is like the point when they kind of really broke through into be a mainstream concern. So yeah, it's one of those things. It feels like a bit of a gap in my cinema knowledge that I've seen a handful of them, but not all of the famous ones. So I've sat down to watch them, and yeah, beautifully done. Really moving. Again, mixture of humour and a lot of heart. Kind of captures that kind of childlike wonder you have at the world that the best children's films have. So yeah, I mean, if you've not seen this, yeah, it's on Netflix, and if you've got a Netflix subscription, definitely go see it.
Yeah, no, I too have seen a bit of a smattering of Studio Ghibli, and I've always vaguely meant to widen that a bit. I think I've seen Kiki's Delivery Service, but you mentioned actually. And yeah, no, they're always, as you say, they're always lovely. They have a very distinct voice, I think, this specific vibe, which I've described 2 or 3 times now, which I think they do very well, and which always somehow doesn't get stale across multiple films.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is we don't know if Miyazaki will make more of these. I guess the studio will probably continue. But yeah, there was talk that The Boy and the Heron could be his last film. Depends. But also, that was clearly a very personal project for him. It's clearly about his childhood and Japanese experience of the war. He's done a very personal one towards the end, but he might keep going. He might just decide, he's done a lot of films, won quite a lot of Oscars, and has generally become like a celebrated cornerstone of Japanese cinema, if not all cinema. So maybe he just feels the need to call it a day.
Yeah, no, couldn't blame him. He's probably created enough classics in the canon at this point.
Yeah. So I've been catching up on some films that I really should have seen about 20 years ago. Nick, what did you get up to over Christmas?
Well, I have actually also watched a few films from the should have seen that years ago list, including the original movie of Fargo, John Wick, Beetlejuice. I always do this over Christmas, and one day I'll catch up with cinema. But those aren't the things I'm talking about this time. I also read the comic series Monstress, which has been going from Image Comics since I think sometime in the early 2010s at this point. It's by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. It's a epic fantasy series in this sort of Japanese steampunk aesthetic about this teenage girl who has been possessed by this monster that lives inside her and compels her to eat people to keep it fed, and occasionally bursts out of her in a sort of savage monstrous form. And she ends up digging into this dark legacy of how she ended up being infected with this creature thanks to her mother, and now there's various other factions and groups. It's a very well developed high fantasy-esque world of different groups all competing for the power of this monster. They're all trying to catch her and experiment on her. There's a strand of sort of anime cuteness as well. There's this little cat who hangs around with her. There's a half human half fox child. It's all very adorable. And yeah, this has been pretty wildly successful. It's probably one of the most it's certainly one of the longest running Image series of that sort of 2010s peak era. A lot of creators who came up in that era are still going and still doing different kinds of projects. Our oft-mentioned friend Kieran Gillen is one of them. Matt Fraction, Chip Zdarsky, other creators like that who have gone on to become quite big names. Jonathan Hickman, I think, is also part of that generation. But Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, although they have actually broken off to do other projects, often still together, they have also kept doing Monstress at the rate of sort of about 1 6-issue volume every year since it started, pretty much. They're now on about volume 10. It's I think, bordering on modern classic at this point. It's won, I think, several Hugo Awards. It's one of those comics that seems to get nominated every year for the Hugo Awards. One of those ones that they just take a shine to and just keep nominating.
Yeah, it's something I've heard of, and I was wondering where I have heard of it before. I don't think we've discussed it on the podcast before, or maybe just tangentially whilst discussing other comics maybe. I mean, it does sound in some ways similar to Hulk, which we've talked about, the Immortal Hulk and things like that. So I don't know if it came up in conversation when we were discussing that.
I don't know. It's probably been mentioned just because it's been so successful for so long. I think I did try and read a chunk of it a few years ago, but I sort of trailed off. But this time I decided to, dig in there, because I think there's a certain amount of adjustment time when you start reading it, just because of the sheer density of the fantasy world. Like when it was first published monthly, the first issue was like 60 pages long or something.
Wow.
To get a decent chunk of story, and I think also to do quite a lot of exposition and info. As a result, I think probably the hardest thing about Monstress is getting properly sort of immersed into it. So I sort of sat down like, okay, this time I'm going to at least read the first 6-12 issues, like the first couple of volumes, and try and get a decent standing on it before I decide whether to carry on. And as of this point, I've now read the first 54 issues. Like, it's the first 9 volumes. I think the 10th volume is out, but it's not on the global comics service that I used to read, so I haven't read that one yet. But yeah, no, I'm now very nearly caught up with Monstress, and yeah, it's good. It's impressive. Yeah, a lot of the impressiveness is partly the sort of emotion behind the characters and partly the sheer density of the world building, but also mostly it's Sana Takeda's art, which is absolutely amazing. I mean, if you've been around the sort of sci-fi fantasy scene, as Alistair has, you may have seen some of it in passing, like covers and stuff. And it's just a gorgeous comic, and it does, like some comics, there's a different artist on the cover, or the cover has a certain style, but the interior's a bit less elaborate. But yeah, like Monstress does actually look like that all the way through. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous comic. Sana Takeda, I think, has won many awards, and deservedly so, to be honest.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, and that sounds really beautiful. And so, has it finished, or is it still a going concern?
I believe it's still a going concern. As I say, there's one volume out there of another 6 issues, taking it to issue 60 that I haven't read, but I haven't heard anything about it finishing, so I assume they're just now on their break between volume 10 and volume 11, which I guess will be sometime next year. But yeah, it's never been like a strict monthly, but yeah, they pop up for like 6 months a year and do another volume, which is, I think, common for a lot of Image series.
Is it more like, I don't know, like Avengers or something like that, something that doesn't finish? It just has ongoing different plot lines that kind of cycle through, or is it strike you more as something like, I don't know, Breaking Bad or whatever, that like, even though it's going to be a long story, will eventually build to some kind of conclusion?
I think it strikes. I mean, a lot of it is a lot more like a sort of massive series of epic fantasy books, to be honest. It's just this character going on this quest to discover the dark secrets of both her world and her own past.
Yeah.
And just getting further and further into it, and just getting more and more elaborate. Like the size of the cast and the number of, again, different like competing groups and factions is enormous at this point. I must admit, I do slightly worry that by the time I finally read Monstress number 10, or volume 10, sorry, I would have forgotten what happened in volume 9 and forgotten exactly which of all the groups were in what position and which ones she's currently fighting. But I don't know, I'll read a summary online or something, it'll be fine.
Yeah, or it might be a situation when you have to reread volume 9. You don't have to go back to the beginning, but you might want to reread volume 9. Like, some TV shows, I rewatch the previous season before diving into a new one, just to remember exactly what the state of everything was.
Yeah, I might well go back and read or skim volume 9 before doing volume 10, something like that. But yeah, no, it's worth it. It's, as I say, it's really good. It's really, really impressive. Marjorie Liu has been around doing comics for a while. She's done a few bits and bobs for Marvel and DC, but this is, I think, very much her magnum opus. It's the thing she's best known for, and as I say, fair enough, it's deservedly acclaimed.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Do keep us up to date with more Monster, or if you follow Nick on Blue Sky or Instagram or any of the other platforms, then I'm sure you can get updates on how you find the rest of it.
Yeah. My continued immersion in the world of Image Comics creators of the 2010s. It's like, that was the second big wave of comics fandom for me. It's first the 90s and then the sort of 2010s Image creators.
Was that when you moved on to sort of like, I don't know, want to say more grown-up comics, or comics with more complexity?
I think it was a sort of a second wave of enthusiasm, I guess. I think I'd almost kind of started to wane a bit in my comics enjoyment, and then that wave of comics and creators started up, and it sort of brought me back into it in quite a big way. It was probably, to be honest, a big precursor to me starting to do the self-published comics I'm doing myself now. So yeah, I guess even a bit of an influence.
Okay, now the moment you've all been waiting for, the counting down of the stuff. So yeah, which we do annually every year. I think this is our 9th year doing it. So strap in, it's going to be a good one. First of all, we will be starting with the best television from this year. We will be counting down our top 5 favourite TV shows, also discussing the worst or most disappointing TV show of the year. But before all of that, it's probably worth just reflecting briefly on the state of the medium as it is. So, Nick, any thoughts? What are any broad trends this year? Anything that's stuck out for you?
Recently-ish, I think a couple of weeks ago, my partner mentioned a Blue Sky post she'd seen by Naomi Alderman, where she said she was relieved that the era of peak TV had more or less stopped, or at least substantially slowed down, because it meant they finally had time to go back and watch some of the TV they'd missed over the preceding 15 years or something like that.
Yeah, 15 years of peak TV.
Yeah. And I was kind of feeling that a bit this year, yeah. There was a point in the last few months where I kind of stopped watching a lot of new prestige dramas and just watched 5 seasons of The Marvellous Mrs. Maisel. I did mention it on this podcast. And don't really feel like I fell too far behind. Okay, I did delay this podcast's coverage of The Diplomat by about a month by doing that. But aside from that, I don't think I really caused too many problems in my own life. There's still a regular drip of interesting shows. A lot of the ones I like are still going. But yeah, I must admit, it doesn't feel as urgent and imperative and exciting as it used to. The number of shows that feel genuinely, exciting and unique seems to be down to a more manageable a year, rather than, oh my god, there's another one.
Yeah, there doesn't seem like there's been an explosion of much shows this year. Yeah, and it does feel like it's been maybe a bit easier to keep on top of, things like that. There's been a few water cooler shows. I guess the one that seems to grab the headlines the most was probably Adolescence, in that it crossed over into kind of mainstream discourse outside TV discourse. There are possibly some other things, if the more I think about it.
Certainly in the UK, I think Adolescence and maybe The Traitors did actually become, considering that we cultural commentators love to bemoan the loss of, a monoculture and a water cooler moment. Those two did actually do a good job of providing that, I think, in the UK this year. A lot of people watching Adolescence and the Traitors and chatting about it.
Yeah, certainly Traitors and Celebrity Traitors was one of those things when like everyone was talking about it, especially when it gets to like the finale. Like it was again a sort of national coming together moment. Everyone was like kind of following the same thing. So it's surprising that that's what's united everyone, but it does make sense in that it is addictive TV and people really enjoy it.
Yeah, it had. I've said this before when I've covered Traitors on this podcast, but yeah, it does manage to very neatly combine being a bit of addictive reality TV, but managing to mostly just about steer around the parts of that that make you feel a bit dirty for watching it.
Yeah,
it managed to be reality TV, but not trash.
Yeah, or not like really, really exploitative. I think also, I guess the celebrity one was kind of like that as well, because I guess the celebrities took it maybe a bit less seriously, because like for them it was very much like, well, this is just another TV gig. It's a big high profile one and it really helped people's public image, but to them it's just another gig. So, they don't feel like, they were like absolutely devastated when it was revealed who the traitors were and things like that. And that kind of sense of like, we're having fun here, we're enjoying this, makes it seem less exploitative than some reality TV can be.
Well, yeah, I mean, even though ironically, or perhaps because it's conceptually meant to be about like betrayal and stuff, and yet weirdly it's quite good fun. I don't know, I think probably there's a degree of editing to fit here, but even in the regular Traitors with regular people, the contestants are, I guess, losing out on substantial amounts of money by getting eliminated, but the show manages to hide any extreme bitterness and fallouts over this in the edit.
Yeah. Always, it preserves that sense of like people actually enjoying it. Yeah. There wasn't seem to be a lot that united people this year. I was surprised by actually. I think I felt like how little new stuff on Netflix that I watched. Obviously, you mentioned Adolescence, that was very much like must-watch TV and produce a lot of think pieces and things like that. Obviously, I enjoyed The Diplomat that we discussed on this podcast, but there didn't seem like there was like a huge amount of like Netflix stuff. So I don't know if they're losing their edge a bit. They used to be like the thing in streaming premium TV, but now not so much.
Well, yeah, I think one of the two factors that has kind of led to the reduction in peak TV I was talking about is partly that streaming services, I think, seem a bit less keen to pump huge amounts of money into TV shows. They're obviously very expensive to make, especially at the level of quality to which we've become accustomed. And clearly they're not attracting the number of subscribers. I mean, we've seen sort of the obvious franchise things like Marvel and Star Wars seem to be dialing down the live action stuff a bit.
Yeah.
The services overall, I think, aren't producing as much stuff. One of Netflix's big shows this year, other than Adolescence, was a mini-series called Death by Lightning, about the assassination of a president in the 19th century, maybe. And
was it assassination of Lincoln?
No, it was Garfield.
Oh, Garfield, yeah, sorry. No, I haven't seen it. I would like to see it because I think it's very good.
It's very good. It will be an honourable mention in my top 5. There you go. It's not quite in there, but it's close. And it does feature, among other things, Matthew McFadden playing what is now his default part of a complete subhuman worm.
And Bradley Whitford playing his default part of someone involved in politics.
Yeah, him as well. Yeah. So yeah, Netflix are still out there, but they're doing noticeably these things like Adolescence and Death by Lightning, which are short miniseries without, necessarily series potential, the need to do like 12, 13 episodes. So I think there's just a desire to do a bit less, which is, an obvious contributor to there being a feeling of less TV. The answer is, well, there just is.
Spreading their bets maybe a bit more. The other thing is that Netflix seem to have very much got into like live sport and things like that. Like I don't really watch or follow sport at all, but they're really pushing at me like American football games and like big high profile boxing matches and things like that. I guess because especially these like boxing matches, they are sort of water cooler moments in, I think, mainstream culture. So, and obviously like a big sporting event that gathers everyone's attention is something that allows them to create buzz. Then, it's harder to do that with a TV show. People aren't all watching it at the same time or things like that. Obviously they succeeded with Adolescence, but not with much else.
Yeah, I mean, it is, again, I'm not the first person to make this observation, but it is interesting to see the sort of the slow progress of streaming services like trying to get people's attention and money by making, high-end wanky TV shows that appeal to, TV critics and nerds.
Yeah.
And then slowly realising, hang on, what actually makes money? Is it sports and reality shows?
Yeah.
Should we be making those instead, or buying the licenses to those instead?
Well, it's partly because they've broken the mainstream, I guess. They had to like get on the early adopters who, maybe are, again, the people who are like trendsetters on social media, other people who are like culturally influential, and, writers and the like of it, the people who like cover culture for media outlets. And to get their attention, you need to do things like prestige TV, stuff that wins like awards and things like that. But then once you've got over the early adopters and you've got into the sort of, I don't know, the mainstream of adopters, and also into the late adopters who people sign up now, but you're talking very much about mainstream culture, which is sport, reality TV, stand-up comedy. They seem to do a lot of that as well.
Yeah, and meanwhile, while the streaming services pull back a bit, we could then turn to the traditional studios to produce more TV, except they've all been completely decimated by their failed attempts to compete with Netflix.
Yeah.
So, another factor in the reduction in peak TV is, is anyone left to make it? I guess this may come up. It'll probably come up a bit now and maybe even more next year.
Yeah.
But Warner Brothers, of course, is about to be bought by either Paramount or Netflix, depending on who wins this mud wrestle they're currently having.
Yeah, so they'll just be folded into something else, yeah.
Yeah, Warner Brothers owns HBO, which does produce a chunk of TV that I watch. And of course also DC Comics. We're not talking about comics, but I'll be interested to see if Netflix, the famously frugal company, has any use for selling tiny little pamphlets for small amounts of money.
Yeah, so the purchase of Warner Brothers by either Netflix or Paramount might actually be the sign of some consolidation in the streaming services. I'm surprised actually we've got this far and none of the big services have fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that Paramount and Warner Brothers aren't just streaming services, they're, actual old world studios. So one of those vanishing probably isn't great for the wider health of the entertainment industry, to be honest. It's probably worse for film than it is for TV, but I don't know if it's going to be great for anything.
No, exactly, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the market would like some consolidation because I think people feel that like keeping up with 5 different streaming services is getting expensive. They're kind of like £10 to £15 a month, so it's £100 all in for you to be just like across the lot, really, which isn't actually, considering how expensive it is also to go out for a meal and things like that. It is actually a reasonably efficient way to spend your entertainment budget.
Yeah. With this many of them, I'm not sure. I don't know. As I say, I suspect they're getting a little bit weary of plunging all this money into streaming, but I also imagine they'll probably try and keep the library running for their backlog, because I guess why wouldn't they? The streaming wars rumbles on probably into its, I don't know, I want to say later stages at this point, or at the very least, everyone seems to have tried it. Most people apart from Netflix seems to have concluded that aggressively pushing it hasn't really worked.
Yeah.
So I guess what happens now, and which companies will survive it, is the next question.
Well, they're just trying to hang in there with who can hang in the longest until the dominoes start to fall. I mean, obviously, Apple are doing well because they've just got like enormously deep pockets. They can just keep going and going and going. To be fair, Apple's had a really strong year and there's a lot of great stuff. Severance, Pluribus, Slow Horses. They're not just spending money for the sake of it. They are actually making quality TV.
Yeah, no, Apple are probably the most consistent TV producer of the last few years. They just don't seem that ruthlessly commercially driven. They seem to be happy to make reasonably good shows and keep renewing them as long as someone watches them, or at least as long as they make some sort of cultural dent, which is an impressive commitment in a world where everyone else seems to get bored after 1, maybe 2 seasons if it doesn't become a global smash.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the fact they've got loads and loads of money, so because from all their hardware sales, that allows them to keep going. Or it's the fact that like Apple is a high-end product. It's part of their brand. They make expensive stuff for like London creatives or whatever, like for the laptops and things like that, even the phones and stuff. They're pitching at the higher end of the market, so they are going to pitch at the higher end of the cultural spectrum, more intellectual, like chin-scratching TV like Pluribus, less reality TV and boxing.
Yeah, I think I did read somewhere that Apple really does not make money on Apple TV, and they are just doing it partly out of enthusiasm and partly out of, as you say, the fact that it looks good to be making widely regarded good shows. So to be honest, maybe Apple will keep going till either some new exec takes over and decides they're losing too much money, or people stop giving them good reviews.
Yeah. One of those things, yeah. And there was obviously a few cultural trends I really liked this year in TV world. The return of Dexter, our beloved Dexter. Well, we got not 1 but 2 new Dexter TV shows this year. So that was certainly something different.
That was baffling, and 2 Dexter TV shows, and both of them were at least all right. One of them was even actually quite good, which is, considering where we left our hero back in the day at the end of season 8, is something no one saw coming.
First of all, considering the fairly appalling ending to the original Dexter, then kind of nicely wrapping it up with Dexter New Blood, which we thought was just basically the kind of conclusive ending they should leave it at. But actually, this kind of basically reset of Dexter, set in New York, kind of just setting things up the way they were before, actually was really good and really entertaining. So yeah, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the return of Dexter. Yeah,
and the trend I enjoyed this year, slightly broader, was maybe some moves towards the return of shows actually coming out every goddamn year.
Oh yeah, that was much appreciated.
I've complained about this on the podcast before, and I'm going to do it again. Well, in a slightly more positive way. I think slowly but surely, the services that are still making shows seem to have decided that yes, we should try and get them out every year to try and keep some sort of momentum going and make people feel a bit more attachment, Although Marvel do seem to be slimming down the live action TV a lot, it is nice that they've actually got a 2nd season of Daredevil coming out this coming year.
Yeah.
And they seem to have renewed it for a 3rd season for next year already as well. Some actual interest in keeping it coming consistently.
Yeah, there'll be actually a show that comes out every year, like, I don't know, like X-Files was, or Lost, or whatever back in the day, rather than these things like, I don't know, House of the Dragon, or whatever that seems to, like, you get a series every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you've got to, I guess, appreciate the irony of them spending all this money on this massive slate of Marvel TV, and the only one that seems to have survived and become a sort of ongoing perennial, at least for now, is a revival of a Netflix show that was going like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Like, all right, fair enough.
People like it though, and it was good. Daredevil Born Again. It was something actually I thought worked really well.
Yeah, that's another one in a sort of honourable mention type level on my top 5. Yeah, it's not in the top 5, but it's up there.
Yeah, certainly, yeah, which is good. Yeah, so there's been some good trends this year. I mean, aside from Dexter, I don't know if it's been a brilliant year for the Disney Plus streaming show. I mean, yeah, Ironheart was sort of like okay-ish. Eyes of Wakanda, okay. I did really enjoy that Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated show. Actually, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, honestly, the stuff they've been getting the most positive attention for outside of Daredevil is probably cartoons. Spider-Man show was good. I hope X-Men 97's back on this year. I'm well up for that. The live action stuff, it does kind of seem like there's a few shows left that they made years ago and they're just sort of slowly shoving out there with very little fanfare. Like you may or may not know, but there's a Marvel live action show called Wonder Man coming up in the next month.
Really?
Yeah, that exists. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, yeah. I mean, Ironheart, at least they went far enough just to have like a major London bus advertising campaign that can't have been cheap. I know it's probably like pennies for Disney, but they did, I guess, make some effort to kind of make it a going concern. I guess they had Ryan Coogler's name attached, so they had a big name to put on it as well, and a sort of spiritual sequel to the Iron Man films and the Black Panther movies, which were very successful. But Wonder Man just seems a bit more of a shot off into the weeds, but I don't know.
It is very much from the era when they were just making shows out of any old obscure Marvel property to see if it stuck. And, it could be good or at least entertaining, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be made much of a big deal. I'll be interested to see if Wonder Man also gets a bus advertising campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Echo, but like Echo was very much like, it seemed like something from the 90s, like a small town crime drama. It had a few supernatural elements thrown in and some associated Marvel lore, but really at its heart, it was just a small town crime drama, like the sort of stuff you get in the 90s. But it was good on that basis. So I don't know what they're planning to do with Wonder Man. Again, maybe something that's like a bit more like regular TV might be more successful. I mean, Daredevil just, again, seemed a bit more like a sort of detective-y New York-based crime show, just he happened to have enhanced abilities or whatever.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the fact that Daredevil seemed to make some effort to have a few standalone episodes and individual plots rather than just one long, quite slow, ongoing crime story, as per some of the Netflix seasons. I thought it was, for the most part, nicely done. Next year, I gather Jessica Jones is back in it, so that'll be fun.
We'll see how that goes, yeah. But also, yeah, there was actually some episodes where he, just foiled some individual crime, like stopped a bank robbery or things like that, an actual, caped crusader fighting crime rather than being trapped up in some big metaphysical drama or whatever the rest of them are up to.
Yeah, no, I'm very up for that. That is, I don't know, I suspect probably higher in my estimation than many critics because I'm a sucker for a reasonably well done street crime superhero story. But yeah, enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And speaking of things we enjoyed,
shall we roll over to the counting down?
Well, I say speaking of things we enjoyed, but first.
But first, because it's just kind of just too awkward if we do it the other way around, we'll do the least favourite thing of the year. So I'm kicking us off this year, and I'm sorry, Marvel, least favourite thing of the year was this season of Marvel Zombies, the spin-off from What If, which is like a whole TV show about zombies, which was, I mean, it wasn't appalling. It probably was better than last year's worst TV show of the year, which I think was the ending of Umbrella Academy, which kind of completely shut the bed. But it just was a bit, I don't know, uninspired. It had a few moments, but to be honest, it was just sort of generic, kind of superheroes like punching zombies sort of thing with some more superheroes thrown in. So it did leave me quite cold at the time and didn't enjoy it very much. So yeah, there we have it.
Yeah, my worst one, again, it's probably more least good or least interesting rather than actually genuinely appallingly terrible. But it's Gen V, which we covered recently, the second season of Gen V, which I found a bit plodding and mediocre. It had its moments, but especially after I remember genuinely quite enjoying season 1, I really did find this one a bit of a slog, which gave it an added edge of disappointment, which has propelled it to the crown of worst TV show. Again, there were definitely worse TV shows made, I just didn't watch them.
Yeah, and I do remember us saying that, like, whatever charm the first season had, whatever interesting take they had or interesting things to say, seems to have been pretty much dropped from the second one, where they made it sort of a fairly generic chosen one narrative and kind of mystery thriller, just another, again, the sort of show they used to just like shit out on the Sci-Fi Channel. They probably still do. Some people with some vague superpowers investigating some sinister plot. Not exactly inspiring or breaking new ground.
Yeah, and then to add insult to injury, it kind of ended with a dovetailing back into the boys' continuity, which is a form of storytelling I think the world is maybe growing a little tired of. So yeah, Didn't do much for me. Never mind, let's move on.
Let's move on to the good stuff. So, we are going to count down our 5 favourite TV shows of the year, then try to arrive at the unified MFV top 3. So, in 5th position, my 5th favourite TV show of the year, it's The Return of King of the Hill, or King of the Hill Season 14, which was one of those classic things when I was like, bringing it back after so long, when culture and politics has changed so much, is it wise? But no, they managed to actually do a really good job, partly through moving things forward in time, introducing some new plot lines, bringing in things like, Hank gets a job as a sort of on an Uber for handymen type thing, and obviously fails to connect with modern technology. The Hill's retired, and Bobby grown up and exploring, what is Hank's purpose in life when he doesn't have a job? And, Bobby entering the world of work. So there was a lot of good stuff going on there, but also classic kind of King of the Hill, good vibes, humour, ridiculous characters, but that real warmth and like nice feeling you get from King of the Hill. So yeah, goes to show, still good, so it's in the top 5.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen this because even though I said I had more time to catch up on stuff, I have not had enough time to watch 13 seasons of King of the Hill. But nonetheless, I have heard this revival was extremely good, bucking the trend of bad, pointless revivals. Everyone seemed to like it, of the people I know who watched it. Right, am I going to sling out some honourable mentions? Well, Adolescence and Death by Lightning were good. There you go. But they're not in the top 5. The top 5 begins with, and it is something I've already mentioned, it's The Traitors, brackets, plus the celebrity one. I've put them both into one slot to avoid gumming up my top 10 with reality shows, but nonetheless, I did enjoy both these quite a lot. I did wonder whether putting them this high somehow compromises my credibility as a critic of pretentious dramas, but ultimately these were 2 of the shows that I found most compelling this year and found myself most looking forward to watching. A certain level of it's not big and it's not clever, but the year's been a shit show, so I'm okay with being entertained.
Yeah, everyone seems to love this. I've never met anyone who's watched The Traitors and hasn't enjoyed it. And it is, generally one of the things that seem to unite people, bring everyone together, get everyone talking, breaking down social barriers, crossing class and political distinctions. So yeah, it's kind of the one thing that still unites us as a nation than basically like football. Yeah,
the one thing that positively unites us is this reality show about backstabbing, set in some sort of weird goth forest. No, it's a very strange show and it's impressive that this combination of influences has worked. But yeah, no, fair enough. It's really good. 2 really good seasons. I am very much looking forward to the new season, which I believe starts the evening after this podcast drops.
Right,
sign me up.
Tune in then. Right, interesting. Right, position 4, moving on. It's a show that was very well received when we discussed in the podcast. It's the 2nd season of Severance. Came out earlier this year. Nearly forgot that this was this year. It seems to have been a long year. But it was brilliant. Yeah, paid off a lot of the mystery built up in the first season, but kept enough mystery there so that to keep it intriguing. Action-packed, big emotional finale. Some great episodes. A lot of really kind of cool, weird stuff, especially like riffing on backroom vibes and other strange sort of philosophical ideas about what if you were literally a different person at work? And yeah, so I love this show. It's definitely my jam. So yeah, there it is at number 4.
I also watched and enjoyed this. It's not on this chart because I don't know really. I sort of started to feel a bit how far is there really to go with this. But nonetheless, this particular season was very well executed. I thought they did a good job of digging a bit more into exactly what's going on here and pushing things to their logical next level. Things like having the 2 finally meet each other, that sort of thing. No, I did enjoy this a lot. There were some good twists. I think there was one episode which I remember thinking didn't really work, but these things happen on television. And right, number 4 for me, another returning favourite for me, one that has been on these charts before and I would imagine may well be on these charts again because I keep bringing it up. It's The Bear, Season 4, the Disney Plus show about an angry man in his kitchen, although this year he's trying to be less angry, he's trying to be more present, he's trying to just stop screaming at people. I probably do have to agree with general consensus that the very best of The Bear is probably behind it, but I do think that this is an improvement on the slightly meandering season we got last year, and I still just feel a strong connection to these characters, very much propelled by the good acting and the writing's impressive ability to just put them in these absolutely gutting moments again and again and again and just dig under their skin. So yeah, no, I continue to enjoy this a lot. I do wonder how many more years of it there can possibly be, partly because I think the story seems to be getting towards its end and partly because the actors are becoming so successful, but how much longer can they keep getting them into the same place, especially, as I said before, every year with impressive regularity. But yeah, no, The Bear, it's back.
Yeah, this is a great show. I loved it. It narrowly missed out on being in my top 5. There were some earlier versions of the top 5 list that did have The Bear in it. Yeah, in some ways it was almost like trying to decide between The Bear and King of the Hill for the 5th position. But I thought this was a really great series this year. I thought there's some really strong episodes. I really like the episode where Sydney's just having her hair done. That's just really great, like, character study. I like the final episode when it's just the 3 main characters basically having like one long chat in one location pretty much. That was good. The wedding episode with all the sort of wide range of characters characters. It was a great series.
That was lovely, yeah.
So yeah, strong recommend for The Bear. Sorry, you didn't make the top 5. But continuing on with the top 5, in position 3, it's another thing that is exactly my jam. It's the second season of Andor. So yeah, Star Wars plus politics plus the philosophy of Hannah Arendt. What's not to like? Yep, they wrapped it up really well. Yeah, it was tense, it was dramatic, it was really interesting. Yeah, really sort of morally complex, philosophically complex show about rebellion and tyranny in the Star Wars universe that we know so well, with a really strong cast, especially Stellan Skarsgård delivering some great monologues. So brilliant show.
I too like this, as many people did. I thought often when a show you like gets ended after 2 seasons, it's hard not to feel a bit, I don't know, a certain sense of annoyance and disappointment, but I thought Andor actually brought things to quite a beautifully pitched conclusion. I thought the inevitable tragic moments, which we've basically been waiting the entire 2 seasons for, arrived with exactly the impact I'd hoped for, and yet also without being too obvious self-sacrificing tragic hero about it. I thought there was a lot of nuance and interesting moments of how unfair everything is living under a fascist empire in less obvious ways than you often get in Star Wars stuff. Yeah, no, this was excellent.
It was good.
And number 3 for me, the annoying mention of a show that has not been covered on the podcast, but was mentioned by me in the recommendation section at some point. It's Hacks. This is a show which I've watched all 4 existent seasons of this year. Often such a show would shoot straight to number 1 because I get really invested. But I will admit the 4th season of Hacks, although good, was not the absolute best season of Hacks, so a couple of things have slipped above it. But still, this is, of course, the show about an elder comedian played by Jean Smart trying to restart her career with the help of a young comedian played by Hannah Einbinder, who has been expelled from Hollywood due to some ill-advised tweets. They both need each other. They both kind of resent each other for the fact that they need each other. It's a very, very fun, toxic co-worker, surrogate mother-daughter show with a lot of nuance and a lot of good jokes. I really, really like it. As I say, the 4th season may not be the best, but still really, really good.
Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about this. Loads of people I know who like it, especially people who like TV and people who like stand-up comedy. It seems to, one of those things that transcends different mediums. But yeah, I've heard lots of good stuff. Yeah, it's on the list of things to watch. Beginning to become a little concerned that we're up to position 2 and we've got nothing in common so far, but let's see how this goes. Maybe this will be a first anyway, things like that. But now we are drawing into the top tier. So yeah, my second favourite show of the year, and it was really hard to choose between the first and second favourite of the year. But my second favourite show of the year, we've already discussed it. Yep, it's Adolescence. It was brilliant. Don't let the discourse put you off or anything like that. If you've not watched it, it's just electric. It's so tense. Brilliant. It's got really something to say, but not in a sort of preachy, hit you over the head with it way. Fantastic episodes. Stephen Graham especially, just brilliant actor. And that final episode, basically a focus on his character, is phenomenal. The whole thing is good. Even every episode is like a one-take shot. Sounds gimmicky, but actually totally works. So yeah, it's Adolescence. It's one of the best things on TV this year, if not the best.
Yeah, no, I also really liked Adolescence. As I say, it occupies a sort of honourable mention position just outside the top 5. If you come back and read the top 10, which will go up on the website probably shortly before this podcast, then you can see where Adolescence was. But yeah, no, I did also really like it. I do think it was brilliantly made. I do think it did a lot of very effective work digging into its subject matter without getting preachy. I thought the performances were great. Stephen Graham especially, the 2 episodes heavily centering around him were probably 2 of the best ones, to be honest. Although, to be fair, the one with the therapist and the kid, also really good.
Yes, that was brilliant, yeah.
The one with the police in the school, maybe a bit weaker, but, these things happen in life. But yeah, no, this was an excellent series. Really, really distinct, really interesting, really emotional and sensitively handled, and as you say, technically fantastic. And yes, we now get to my number 2, and you'll be happy to hear we do finally have something in common. At number 2, it's Andor. Brilliant. The Star Wars show we just mentioned, unusually political sci-fi, actually getting a slightly higher vote for me than Alistair. Because I love this. I found it incredibly compelling. I felt, especially once you got into the last 7 or 8 episodes, I found this very hard to put down. I absolutely steamed through this. I thought it was amazingly compelling, brilliant character writing, and an example of how to really, really, really just fucking end the show. I absolutely love this.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's one of the sort of most interesting, dense and complex, really rewarding things to watch that Disney have made, yeah. Okay, and we're now into, my favourite TV show of the year. We've not mentioned it so far. Those of you who've been paying attention will probably guess what this is. My favourite TV show of the year, Alien Earth. I was a huge fan of the Alien franchise, and again, this is one of the most sort of meatiest, most interesting, best piece of Alien media made in quite a long time. All the right decisions were made, I felt. For example, to not focus the plot on digging too much into the aliens, just have them there as a horrific presence, in sort of the background. But digging into the synthetics and how they came about with a really interesting origin story, some amazing grown actors playing children in grown-up bodies, which was brilliant. Some good action scenes, some excellent performances. Generally terrifying episode where where they speed run the first Alien movie as well. Yeah, it's a franchise that I love, and it did a good job, so yeah, it gets the number 1 spot.
Yeah, I also saw this. Again, it's lurking outside the charts, but it is a good show. It was very compelling. I think this came up in the review as well. I think I liked it a bit less than Alistair, but I did enjoy its take on Alien. I did enjoy the weird spacey atmosphere to it. We've covered Noah Hawley's work before. He, of course, did Legion, a show that got very, very high regard on this podcast. If anything, honestly, there might have been a touch of disappointment from me because it came from the same guy as Legion and wasn't, in my opinion, a completely flawless work of genius. But nonetheless, it is a very good show. I'm happy that they've renewed it for a second season, and I will definitely be watching it.
Yes, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Right, and my number 1, it's, I think, briefly been mentioned. Entirely for reasons of scheduling, it's something we haven't yet covered on the podcast, but I'm pretty sure we have both watched it. It is Pluribus, the new show from Vince Gilligan of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fame, about a woman who finds herself one of the only independent human beings left in the world after the rest get absorbed into some kind of weird hive mind. Full disclosure, I have seen all but one episode of this. Due to my Christmas travel plans, I have not yet seen the finale. I will probably have seen it by the time we release this episode, and if it completely shits the bed, then maybe I'll rewrite the chart for the blog version. But as of now, I just find this ludicrously compelling. I just find it quite hard to stop staring at it, to be honest. It's one of the most odd, off-centre shows I've seen in a while. I think the first episode maybe had a slight ring of, is this slightly standard sci-fi? But ever since then, it's just gone off in these really strange, quiet directions. Like, you might expect the next show from the Breaking Bad guy to be a show for fans of, like, morally ambiguous crime series, but actually it turns out it's a show for fans of those long process montages he used to do. Because that's very much the keynote he's building on here.
Yes, if anything, there are more process montages than before. I really like the process montages.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of whole episodes that are borderline process montages.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Is it arguably a bit wanky? Yes. Have I seen many arguments on the internet whether this might actually be too slow paced? Absolutely, but I fucking love it.
No, just make the show you want to make. I'm here for people's committed artistic vision. I love this show. I think it's brilliant. The only reason why it's not in my top 5 or my honorable mentions is I've just not seen enough episodes, I feel, to actually put it in. I'm a few episodes behind Nick, so yeah, I've got the core, last third, I don't know, of the storyline to get through. So I'm reserving judgment at this point. It's probably fallen into the category of Alice in Borderlands, which is coming out near Christmas and never ever been quite eligible for it because I just don't watch it in time. But I have enjoyed every episode I've seen so far. I really like, again, the philosophical complexity of it. It's got this great running thread of, the individual versus the collective, what rights do you have as an individual versus, the sort of utilitarian approach of the collective and the sort of responsibility of the whole world. It's got a lot to say philosophically, again, and does it in a really interesting, entertaining, bizarrely funny at times, but also really sad as well. So yeah, it's smart, it's funny, it's well acted, it's dramatic. Yeah, can't fault it in any way, really.
Yeah, I enjoy the strand of dark humour. Obviously, always here for a bit of the old tonal mismatch, and Ray Seahorn is astonishing in this. As I say, there's a lot of long, slow process montages. Like, we've talked about people being the lead of shows before and said things like, oh, they're in every scene. Ray Seahorn basically is the show. There's a few cutaways to other characters, but a lot of it is just one long close-up of Ray Seahorn, and she's nailing it. And she's not even playing that likeable a character.
No, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, my partner, actively does not like the character. There's a moment in Pluribus where she discovers that a lot of the other survivors, the people who haven't been absorbed into this hive mind, are basically hanging out without her because they just can't stand her. And my partner was just like, yep, fair enough, I wouldn't either. So yeah. But despite that, she's nailing this show.
Yeah, no, she's brilliant. She was brilliant in Better Call Saul, and I can see why Vince Gilligan wanted to build a show around her. Yeah, that's sort of inspired choice. Yeah, I can imagine had I finished this, it probably would have swung a wrecking ball right into the top 5. But here we are. Speaking of top, should we draw together the MFV unified list? I think, I'm happy to put Pluribus in number 1 because I can't imagine I'm going to really dislike the last few episodes when I finally get around to watching it.
Well, for whatever it's worth, I've seen all but the last one, and they're still really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do. And then Andor seems to be the unified second favourite. Yeah. Then after that, sounds like it's either Adolescence or The Bear.
Good point. Yeah.
I think The Bear probably is not at its very best, so I'd say let's go Adolescence.
Let's go Adolescence.
That's the interesting 2025 choice.
Yeah, it is. It is the water cooler show of the year in my book, along with The Traitors, I suppose. But it's the water cooler show of the year, and yeah, The Bear will be back probably next year for another crack at the top 5. Whereas I really hope they don't make any more Adolescents. that would just be squeezing money out of it pointlessly. But yeah, okay. So there we have it. Number 1, Pluribus. Number 2, Andor season 2. Number 3, Adolescence.
Yep. Okay. There we go. And that was TV 2025. Done. Okay, and now we turn to the bigger screens in the event that you are one of the people who still watches films on big screens. So it's another year in the post-superhero movie landscape, and now we turn to our resident film critic, Alistair J.R. Ball. What is going on?
Well, I don't know. I think overall it was a pretty middling year for film. Not terrible, not a great one. I thought it was a really good year for the Oscars, actually, I must say. It was a really strong slate. I really like The Brutalist. I know a lot of people thought it was long, but I thought it was just, a sort of slow burn, powerful drama, about the Holocaust and architecture. Good stuff. Good stuff's in the good subject for films. They got that on a hot mic.
I hear they love the Holocaust, to be fair, in films.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, Nora, The Nickel Boys, again, absolutely devastating. Complete Unknown, good Dylan biopic. So yeah, a good year around the Oscars. There wasn't really enough. I'm trying to think of anything that really smashed out of the park that wasn't kind of in that bracket. There was a couple of things which I'm sure we'll come to, especially in the chart, mainly on the American indie scene. But it doesn't seem like it was a blistering year. Although there were lots of things that haven't made the top 5 that I did like a lot, like Mickey 17. I thought was really good. Enjoyed that. Obviously, I like Bong Joon-ho, and Mark Ruffalo was great in that.
Yeah, that's on my sort of honourable mention section as well.
Yeah.
And Companion as well, another decent sort of sci-fi story.
Yes, that was a good one. Yeah, that was one of the things where oh, that looks interesting, I'll see it. And then when I watched it, I was like, wow, that was really, really good. Felt had a lot to say about right now, some great performances, really strong cast. Yeah, so that was a good film, yeah. So a few indie gems. An interesting year for the franchises, I must say, in that some of the best franchise stuff were the unusual franchises. The ones that haven't had great runs recently or aren't kind of the big focuses, such as 2 Predator films, both of which we enjoyed. Both Killer of Killers, the animated one, and Predator Badlands, a sort of live action adventure. Really solid. So yeah, again, after talking about good Alien content in TV, good Predator content in the cinema, that was an interesting...
Well, yeah, I think a lot of the things that have succeeded in the post-superhero universe movie landscape have been the category of franchises that haven't yet been strip-mined. We get things like Barbie. People are once again excited to see Predator.
Yeah. Especially when it's actually, oh, this one's good. It's actually worth seeing sort of situation.
Yeah, but we didn't see it or cover it, but one of the biggest films this year, I gather, was Minecraft, Another one from the category of video game movies, because that is an area of IP that has not yet been franchised to death in the cinema.
Yeah. And also, it's a kids' film that appeared well to kids' film with some nostalgia stuff thrown in for parents, such as Jack Black. I've not seen it. It doesn't, to be honest, appeal, but... it made a fuck ton of money. As well as also while we're in the kind of IP and nostalgia market, I think one of the other biggest films of the year in terms of box office was the live action Lilo and Stitch, which aimed at nostalgic millennials who are now parents want to take their kids to something. Again, I didn't see it, heard it's all right.
I do slightly struggle not to audibly roll my eyes at the live action remake of animated movie subgenre, I would admit.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of them are fine.
Yeah. So it's always been a sort of one strange one for the unusual franchises, or I guess maybe because people are just bored of some of the big stuff they've been seeing for a while, so they're looking for other places. But
the last Mission Impossible, the allegedly last Tom Cruise Mission Impossible film, came out this year to what seemed like a slightly muted reception, to be honest. It came out, the people who wanted to see it seemed happy enough with it. Everyone else just sort of shrugged.
That was my response, really. It was entertaining. Tom Cruise does, an amazing, impressive roller coaster film with stunts and chases. That's his bag. I thought the previous one, Dead Reckoning, was better. That was generally better received. This one was all right, but it had its moments. It's not in the top 5. Had it been as good as Dead Reckoning, it might have made the top 5.
Well, yeah, there were a few interesting sort of big budget movies outside the franchises. As you say, you mentioned Mickey 17, One Battle After Another, Sinners. Both movies with, 3 movies with reasonable budgets and some level of artistic vision and perspective.
Yeah, they both
credible films.
They all had auteur directors behind them, respectively Bong Joon-ho, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Ryan Coogler. So yeah, visionary directors doing great work. And speaking of visionary directors, Netflix seemed to put quite a lot of money into this series of films by visionary directors. And the run up to Christmas, it got a lot of buzz going at the London Film Festival around some of the bigger films. Frankenstein, Ballad of a Small Player, I thought was really good, very visually interesting. Obviously, the Conclave guy is, I've forgotten his name, but he's an interesting director, and I thought that was a good film. A House of Dynamite, brilliant. I'm kind of there for everything with Rebecca Ferguson in it, and Idris Elba also turning up, and Jared Harris and others. So yeah, even though Netflix may be cutting back on the TV, they did seem to really go for it with the films. It was clearly aimed at the Oscar season, getting these films on the festival circuit, big London advertising campaign around these 5 films. I wonder if it's been successful to them, and if it's something they'll try again, or if it was just a kind of, maybe produce some good films, but I don't know if it actually achieved commercially, business-wise, what they wanted to do. But in terms of its success, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Oscar nominations next year. But, it was definitely a lot of talk about Netflix at the film festival circuit, and it made a big cultural impact in the latter part of the year. And obviously building up to the Knives Out film, which I gather has been a bit of a Christmas hit.
Yeah, no, I guess as we look forward to Netflix possibly buying Warner Brothers, it's nice they still seem to be interested in that sort of thing. Of course, Warner Brothers did release Mickey 17, Sinners, and One Battle After Another, so whether it bodes well for the number of interesting films released, I don't know. But
and Warner Brothers still does put some auteur money behind what they do. Yeah, they've got these talented people on hand, and they make some good films. Yeah, there's still some interesting things going on, stuff that's worth digging up in the sort of the indie space. But yeah, we're turning to the mainstream stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, I was about to say mixed year, but to be honest, probably not. But in an effort to say something nice, I really liked Thunderbolts Asterisk. Obviously, I'm here for anything with Florence Pugh in, but actually that was really good to be a Marvel summer blockbuster, fun time at the cinema sort of film. Yeah, humour and dramatic tension, all the rest of it.
I thought if you quietly ignore Captain America Brave New World, the superhero films had an okay to good year. I thought Thunderbolts, Superman, Fantastic Four, those are all at least decent.
Yeah, Fantastic Four had a lot of charm. Good family story, great performances. Yeah, I really like the sort of atom punk aesthetic. Superman was, really good, like perfect slice of summer blockbuster. So yeah, there was definitely some good stuff this year.
Yeah, I think superhero movies, I don't think the box office was there, I gather they have not returned to their prior dominance, but I mean, for what little it's worth, I thought the actual films were mostly decent to good. Outside that, no, it hasn't been a great year for franchise stuff, I don't think.
The new Jurassic Park film was apparently appalling. I didn't see it because the reviews were so bad. Everyone I know saw it, thought it was pretty bad. So yeah, their chance to reboot Jurassic Park.
Did you make it to your token viewing of Avatar 3?
I have not seen Avatar 3, so it's not eligible for the worst film of the year, or the best film of the year in that regards, in that I have not had a chance to see Avatar 3. I'm sure we'll watch the podcast or my feeds for when I do finally get around to seeing it, but the reviews have been appalling. It's got a classic Mark Hugh mode sort of hate rant. So,
I found the reviews to be sort of interestingly polarised. I've seen both, it's quite good actually, and yeah, I absolutely hated it. I did see the Mark Hugh mode one, which I have no idea how accurate a reflection of the film it is, but it was entertaining in itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, so yeah, some of the other franchises, not doing great. Yeah, it's also been an interesting year for British film. So yeah, we got a sequel to 28 Years Later that I understand did quite well. There's also a few interesting things. The Ballad of Wallace Island was really lovely, kind of sweet comedy. Tim Key doing great stuff this year. Yeah, Mickey 17 and The Ballad of Wallace Island. Good year for Tim Key. Yeah.
At last, mainstream success for Tim Key.
Yeah. And Tornado I liked a lot, with Jack Lowden and Tim Roth in a Scottish samurai movie. What's not to like? Again, I didn't see it, but I gather that Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy made a fuck ton of money and people seem to like it. So yeah, I guess British cinema continues to soldier on.
They're still doing interesting enough things. I think in a world where people are a bit sick of total franchise dominance, there's some space for it. I mean, films like One Battle After Another do prove that there's some interest in things other than that.
Yeah.
Not that The Ballad of Wallace Island was a global smash, but
Yeah, I mean, One Battle After Another has Leonardo DiCaprio in it, who's again still amongst the most famous film stars in the world. But there was a big advertising campaign behind it. It seemed to got people aside again. Like a lot of people I know who don't go to the cinema very regularly, and especially like swerve the kind of big films like superhero blockbusters or whatever, but are interested in the high profile interesting films, did really like go for One Battle After Another. It's interesting as it came out in the summer how it will do at the Oscars. I gather it did quite well at the Golden Globe nominations, that and Sinners as well. So it'd be interesting if it actually is the summer films that dominate, because it's usually the latter part of the year. Obviously a lot of the Oscar stuff for next year is kind of dripping out around now. Like Mighty Supreme's got good reception.
Yeah, no, we may yet cover that. I'd quite like to see that once we emerge from the haze of Christmas.
Absolutely, yeah. So cinema continues to rumble on. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a middling year for the superheroes. I suppose it was a return after last year when there really wasn't much at all. Marvel were taking a year off. I guess the big litmus test for next year is there's a new Avengers film and
a new Spider-Man film.
I can imagine Spider-Man will do well. People love Spider-Man, and Tom Holland's very good. It'd be interesting to see if they release an Avengers film and if it's just sort of middling successful, whereas the previous four were obviously the biggest thing in the world. world for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we do live in a weird world where, honestly, of the 3 superhero films coming out next year, 2 of which are Avengers and Spider-Man, I'm kind of almost more interested in the Supergirl film, which is a weird space to live in, but there we go.
No, Superman was good in the trailer. Looks good for Supergirl. Yeah, I guess tune in to see what we made of those big franchise ones. But it is a real acid test time for Marvel with the new Avengers film. So they're bringing back Chris Evans and they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. So they're trying their best. Yeah, so let's see. Well, tune in next time to find out. But before that, it's chart time. And Nick will be leading us this time.
Okay, yep. And first, as ever, to get it out the way, it's time for the worst film of the year. And this one did pretty much rise itself. When I went back and looked at the things we covered this year and the films I'd seen, which is basically a list of things we covered this year, there was one obvious candidate for this job. Not technically a cinematically released film, but that's not going to stop me. It's Star Trek Section 31. A terrible film, which was almost definitely an aborted TV pilot, and that's probably for the best.
Yeah, this is also my worst film of the year. It's just appalling. Even Michelle Yeoh's charisma couldn't save that. Nonsensical plot, a sort of ham-fist of bizarre two-dimensional characters and tonal mistakes. Yeah, generally something that everyone involved would prefer as forgotten, which is good because it's largely been forgotten.
Yeah, it did very much have the sad air of a lot of people sleepwalking through it because they'd signed a contract saying they'd do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, never mind. If you want to hear us slag that off at length, we did a podcast earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Let's move on to positivity.
Shall we do some honourable mentions?
I'll shoot some honourable mentions out. They are things that have been mentioned mostly. Things that didn't quite make the charts. It's Companion, Mickey 17, and Thunderbolts Asterisk. All good films, all not quite in the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. They are also in my... I wrote a top 12, and those come down my top 5. Those are all in my top 12, but yeah, they don't make the top 5 as well. All good films. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of films I really enjoyed that are not eligible. Landmarks, which won top prize at the London Film Festival this year. It's not been on general release yet. It's absolutely brilliant though, and for once I actually saw the winning film at the festival, and it was amazing. So yeah, if you get the chance to see Landmarks, go see it. Also give a shout out to Grand Theft Hamlet, which was technically released last year, so it's not eligible, but we saw it this year, and it is very moving, bizarre, interesting and strange. So there's your honourable mentions, things not eligible.
Yeah, I was disappointed that I couldn't name Grand Theft Hamlet in this list, but there we go, it was good. Things I can name though. Here comes number 5. I've mentioned it already. It's Superman from James Gunn. Once someone actually releases a genuinely really good superhero film, it's going to be in the top 5 somewhere. Couldn't quite justify putting it ahead of all the other films, but here it is at number 5. A real good-natured, fun return to a bit of classic Superman action. Nice to see him just being a good bloke and saving some squirrels. David Cornsquet is good, Nicholas Hoult is good, Rachel Brosnahan is good, and James Gunn, I think, really giving us a new side to his existing style without deviating from it so much. Yep, it's been a good year for him. I failed to mention Peacemaker because it was a bit below in my honourable mentions, but that was good as well.
Yes, this is also my 5th favourite film of the year, so we agreed on that. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Yeah, classic piece of summer blockbuster. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's got great dramatic scenes, great action scenes, big emotional climax, few scatter moments of James Gunn humour, really interesting and wide-ranging cast of DC characters, some ones that were newer to me at least, like Mr. Terrific. Nathan Fillion cropping up as well. I'm always here for some Nathan Fillion. Yeah, it was just, really like great, entertaining summer superhero film. What more could you want?
Yep, okay, well, see if we can continue to agree with each other. Number 4, One Battle After Another, as mentioned. Paul Thomas Anderson's epic story about Leonardo DiCaprio growing old and increasingly falling out of the revolution. Yeah,
this is a great film. Really, really good, funny, dark, brilliant. Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio is just doing a phenomenal again. I think as you said when we reviewed it, like, it's nice that now that he's older, he doesn't feel the need to be like always glamorous, sexy, and even likable as a character, playing this sort of burned out druggie who can't remember the code words on the phone, but and things like that. It shows he's a really good actor and he does the interesting roles that he likes. Yeah, gotta love this film.
Yeah, no, he seems very, very much having fun and comfortable in this part of, this just meandering, broken down loser. Yeah, it's incredibly fun, it's incredibly funny, it's got a few surprisingly poignant messages thrown in there, but normally punctuated with a joke as well. It's a good time.
I really recommend this film. Moving on, so we're going right back to the beginning of the year for my number 4, which is back to the Oscar season, and it's A Real Pain. Yeah, a film which got a lot of attention at the time, and I think it left out of people's lists at the end of the year, partly because it came out such a long time ago, but I just thought it's a really great, it's sweet, it's funny, it's a good comedy film about 2 cousins. Kieran Culkin, amazing performance, really deserved the Oscar he won. I thought Jesse Eisenberg also did a great performance. performance, and he also wrote, directed and produced the film, as well as playing the other character in it. It's a really great film about family and the familial bonds, also about the Holocaust, and a great film about being a Jewish American, and also the difference between being like, you know, a Polish Jew and an American Jew, and a really kind of sensitive, like humane film. I just wanted to give it one last chance to give it a shout out.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. I wasn't sure what to make of it when I came into it, but yeah, I found it really interesting and moving. It's really, really good. As you say, Kieran Culkin is amazing in this, and the last scene is absolutely killer with him. So yeah, no, this was great.
Very, very good.
Okay, and number 3, another one that's been mentioned. We've really covered a lot of the films. It's Wake Up Dead Man, the latest Benoit Blanc film from Ryan Johnston and Netflix, in which, having done Rich People and Tech Bros, they turn to religion. And yep, this came out over Christmas. We watched it shortly before. A lot of you may have watched it over the holidays. It's a good one, to be honest. As I said during the review, I don't know if it's quite topped Knives Out, but I think it's easily the second best of these, and may well come very close to topping Knives Out, to be honest. I may have to rewatch them both to have a strong opinion. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've already seen it twice because I watched it with my family over Christmas. And yeah, it's still really, really good. Definitely stands up to a second viewing. Definitely recommend. Good stuff.
Yeah, I like this film a lot. Thought it was brilliant. Such a great mystery, really interesting locked room mystery. Keeps you guessing the whole way through, twists and turns, things like that. It's a really strong cast as well. They put together brilliant lists of casts, these thrillers. I really hope they keep making them. Daniel Craig seems to really generally enjoy the role as well. I'm glad he's found a role that's most successful and he seems to really like.
Yeah, it's nice to see him get this reward for toughing out those years of James Bond.
Yeah. And doing something that's maybe a bit more fun than his other go-to shtick. Like, I saw Queer this year and I thought that was really good, but that's clearly like a really like hard-hitting, you know, difficult emotional performance. But he's clearly having some fun. Yes, that was good. Moving on, my number 3. We discussed it briefly before. It is Sinners, Ryan Coogler's Deep South horror crime action movie that was like, the smash hit of the summer, bringing in everything from like jazz culture to sort of gangsters, and obviously the African American experience in the Deep South in the segregation era. It was just a brilliant film. Michael B. Jordan, amazing performance, again playing off himself, usually ill-advised, but actually was good this time. And some brilliant, really tense scenes. Whole cast also great as well. I thought Sinners was amazing.
I thought this was absolutely excellent. I really enjoyed this. I thought Michael B. Jordan was great. I like the action. I always enjoy a good, well-staged, like single location siege film when you've really got a strong sense of the choreography and you can just really get involved in the exact situation of what's happening over there. And this is a great one.
Keeps the tension nice and high, doesn't it?
Love this. Good film. And at number 2, it's already been mentioned, but yes, I had a good cry out of real pain. So here it is at number 2, because as I've said before in these charts, make me cry, get a good chart placing. And this was great. I thought we already covered it earlier, but I thought Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin were amazing. I thought it really tapped into this sort of quiet sadness in a way that a lot of Bond film I think sometimes struggles to do, because it's so focused on moving on quickly and stopping you from looking away. And this film really stuck with it in a quite moving way. I really like this. So here it is at number 2.
Yeah, it's a brilliant film, and I really urge everyone to go see it. It's so well done, just like the relationship between the two cousins and what they have. And like, I think it's a great film about like when you're close to someone and you drift apart in life, like all the stuff about the Jesse Eisenberg character. You know, he's married, he's got a kid, he's kind of, his life's going in a very different direction, but he's still really close to his cousin. But also there's a real tension there, and also the whole thing of like how he's like kind of insufferable as cousin, but also everyone loves him as well. It's just really well done and really well observed about human relationships.
I thought this film was gorgeous. It was a very back and forth on whether it was going to be number 1, but it isn't.
Excellent. So that was your number 2?
Yep.
My second favourite film of the year. It is that time, to once again throw out a film that was not covered on the podcast, although was discussed in the recommendation section. My number 2 film of the year was Nora, which won Best Picture. The new Sean Baker film about, the Russian sex worker who falls in with the son of a Russian billionaire and ends up marrying him after like a 2-week fling and things like that, and then gets caught up in the kind of chaos of this world. It's heartbreaking. It's all those great things. Like, it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's clever, it's got something interesting to say. It's got like all the great Sean Baker films. Like, it depicts a kind of a world that's like beneath the surface of our world, but we don't really see very much. But it's worth exploring with these sort of strange, interesting, unusual characters. There's some great scenes in it as well. I'm really glad it won Best Picture because I felt it was like a bit of a dark horse, but it was really, really moving and deserved deserved that win. Yeah, everyone go see it.
Yeah, no, I've heard this is great. I am still waiting for someone to put it on a streaming service so I can watch it without having to pay more money. But I have heard it's excellent, and I would actually quite like to watch it.
Yeah, if you've seen Real Pain, then this is one of the Oscar films I'd see this year. Even again, it was harder. Like, I did really like The Brutalists, and it's made the top 10. But when I sat down and think about it, though The Brutalist appeals to me a lot because it's about architecture, modernism, and things like that. In terms of just telling a really powerful story with brilliant performances and things like that, Anora just like absolutely eclipses pretty much every other film this year. So that's why it's made it into the top 5.
And now we turn to my number 1, and we have covered many of the films, so yes, I am going to be mentioning something that's already come up. It's the tight contained vampire action of Sinners at number 1 for me, Ryan Coogler's big horror action hit, which, yeah, I really like this. I came out of this absolutely buzzing. This was excellent. It was, as I say, tight between this and A Real Pain. I sort of decided that there's a bit more sort of ambitious cinema in Sinners, maybe, which I thought maybe pushed it over the top, but they are both excellent, and I would recommend seeing either of them.
Yeah, this film is phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely love Sinners. So good. I really like the bit when it kind of talks about music moving through time, and like it literally shows again like music's influence across time in a really cool dance montage sequence that, again, in the hands of a lesser director could have been cheesy or silly, but actually in this was phenomenal. Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah, Sinners definitely one of the absolute like smashing it standout film of the year.
Yeah, no, this was fantastic. As you say, I mean that scene is great, and it's not even that core to the plot. It's the sort of thing he just sort of tosses off mid-film. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's what separates a brilliant film from a merely very good film, is that it's got all the sort of storytelling, character, drama, tension, all of that, but then also has that like extra level of like something interesting and creative and sort of really memorable stuck in as well. And on to my number 1 film of the year. Yeah, as with Nick's, it's one that's already been mentioned. Probably, again, no surprises here. It's One Battle After Another, a film about left-wing underground guerrilla group standing up to fascist American military state. It's brilliant, funny, it's great. I thought Sean Penn was really good as the villain as well, and Benicio del Toro as the Mexican underground activist, also who's obsessed with Japan and Japanese martial arts, and it's never really explained what the deal with that is. It's just those beautiful little character details that Paul Thomas Anderson does so well. Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson's definitely going through a sort of imperial stage in his career, and it's, this might be his crowning achievement unless his next film's even better. But yeah, I thought this film was phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, go see it or get your hands on a copy. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I really like this as well. It didn't quite make the top 3 due to, I don't know, not enough in your face punching or out and out crying for me. But yeah, no, it was really, really good. I did really enjoy the sort of slow character study of it.
Yeah, lovely stuff. So yeah, a lot of consensus there. What are we going to do with the top 3? I think Sinners is pretty across the board.
Yeah, it sounds like is it going to be some combination of Sinners, A Real Pain, and One Battle After Another?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a lot of consensus. We both had One Battle After Another, Sinners, Real Pain, and Superman in the top 5. The only difference was, I had Anora and you had
Wake Up Dead Man. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go with like, Sinners, One Battle After Another.
Yeah. Since it was your number 1, yeah. Sinners, One Battle After Another, Real Pain. That'll do.
That's a really strong slate of films. So yeah, go see them.
Okay, and that was another episode and indeed another year of Moderate Fantasy Violence. Thank you very much as ever for listening. If you want even more, you can go to our website at moderatefantasyviolence.com and listen to all our previous episodes, even just all of our previous end of year chart episodes, and see how we've changed and grown. And then if you approve, you can reward us with a nice 5-star review on whatever podcast application lets you review things. Thank you.
And after that, you can keep up with our views on film and TV in 2026. To get up-to-the-minute updates on the podcast, follow us on Blue Sky and Facebook. On Blue Sky, we are at MFV Podcast, and you can search for Moderate Fantasy Violence on Facebook. You can also get up-to-the-minute updates from me and my cultural adventures in 2026. I'm Alistair Ball, and you can find me by searching for Alistair Ball on TikTok, Instagram, or Blue Sky. You can also visit Red Train blog if you want to read any of my other writing, or you can find my theatre reviews at everythingtheatre.com.
Yep, and you can also follow me and my self-published comics by going to nickbryan.com. That's with a dot on the internet and on Blue Sky, and with the word dot on Instagram, where you can hear about, among other things, the upcoming second volume of Courier Z coming to Kickstarter in a few months. The little pre-launch page is up now. Click the button, make the number go up, make Nick happy. Thank you. And once you've done that, we'll let you come back next episode and listen to the next Moderate Fantasy Violence, in which we will be talking about, firstly, one of the TV highlights of the year. As discussed, we will both have finally finished watching Pluribus, and we'll have a chat about that, and we'll also be watching exciting new movie, Marty Supreme. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm gonna. Actually, no, I'm not gonna do that because it's time to slag something off.
Yeah.